Sigali swagwag, Yegon Sioni. So I'm Yegon Si. Hello, everyone. I am here to teach about the next section or the next unit that we have in our language fundamental video series or playlist on YouTube. So this is unit 4, and this is the next section in the Oneida Language Department curriculum booklet. And so if you're following along in that book, you'll see that greetings is the next section and then counting. And so this video is going to cover both of those things together. So we kind of call this unit 4. It gives you more fundamental aspects of our language and gives you a good building block to move forward. Okay, so we kind of call this also Ganahela Dunsel and Dwaset. All right, so let's get into our section here. So what I want you to know from this video is to know all of the greetings listed, be able to speak and pronounce them correctly, know the definition or the translation of each greeting or phrase, know all of the numbers 1 through 100, including the 5 commands for counting, understand the patterns found within the counting system, be able to speak and pronounce all numbers 1 through 100 correctly. Know the English and Oneida translation of each number. Okay, so counting is really based on a patterning system. Right now, it's simply just the numbers we're going to talk about. When you learn more advanced concepts in our language, you can incorporate nouns and numbers together based on a little bit more of an advanced way of changing or incorporating a noun and a number. And so you do need to know the numbers first, and then we'll learn the nouns, and then later on, you'll be able to learn how to incorporate them in later videos. So it is important to know these fundamental aspects because they're building blocks for later on. Okay, so let's get started. I'm a little cold today, so I got a blanket. All right, so I showed you guys this picture the last video, and so this is just giving you an overview of Oneida language acquisition, a pathway to fluency or proficiency. So we had covered a lot of good fundamentals in previous videos, and so we're just using more building blocks in understanding greetings and counting. You'll be able to see the next section on here, and then the following sections, and then even more beyond that. So even though what's listed on the top of the picture in terms of what is covered in Oneida 2 or the next book, there is much more beyond that. Okay, so there's many more stairs that exist beyond this picture. So just keep it in mind. It's just a part of our learning journey. So another way to look at it is you're kind of building a foundation. Think of your learning as if it was a pyramid. You really need to have a really solid foundation to be able to go higher. Okay, so we're learning about greetings, counting. The next video will cover colors, nouns, and animals. And then we will just continue from there. Keep building a foundation. Okay, so you can kind of see the little the progress that's kind of expected when you follow the language department curriculum. So again, like I've mentioned before, the more time you put into this, the faster it's going to come. If you just put moderate time into it, it'll be slow and steady. If you put a little bit of time into it, it might be more slowly, but all of that is okay. It's just all dependent on your own learning style and how much time you put into it. Okay, so this is just a goal, I guess you could say. It's not like how it actually, you don't need to be able to make sure you learn everything within 5 years, but it's just kind of a goal, I guess, for learners to kind of keep them on track. All right. So the first section that we're going to talk about is greetings. We call this section Ganahela Donsel. So this is the word in our language for greetings or thanksgivings. Netsagat means it's the same. There's a lot of meanings to this word. It's a pretty prominent word in our language, in our culture. And so you might have heard this word used with what we call our Thanksgiving address or our opening address or our opening speech. It's similar to Ganahela Donsla. And so it is the same word. Ganahela Dunsel is the word by itself when it's used in a sentence or something's after it. The EHL at the end of ganahela dunsel changes to an LA. Okay, so we've talked about whispered endings before, but sometimes words change a little bit when they're used in a sentence, and this is a good example of that. So ganahela dunsel changes to ganahela dunsla, and it's also the word that's used for the Thanksgiving address or the opening address or speech, which is a speech that is done before anything important, ceremonies, gatherings. We do it at the beginning of our day and end of our day here every single day at De Hadibanakwa, because it's a really big part of our students' learning and our curriculum. We take all of our curriculum from that speech. And so we center our cultural ways within that. And it really helps to give students a foundation in understanding really deep values and aspects of our culture. So learning and respecting and giving thanks and acknowledging to everything in creation and everything that creation has given us. So even our little ones, they all volunteer to do our speech every morning in the afternoon. And so it's really cool, actually, because it gives them an opportunity to speak, but to give thanks and just build their confidence. And it's really fun. So generally in a more ceremonial setting, it's done by a male. So just FYI, at school here, we all do it. But when it's done at ceremonies or usually with other particular cultural protocols, it is done by a male. So just FYI, it is done before all ceremonies and after all ceremonies. So you kind of now have a little bit more of a context to this word. One other thing too is, like I mentioned, ganahela dunsel, which changes to ganahela dunsla when it's used in a sentence. It has a lot of meanings. So it can mean greetings. It can mean thanksgivings, like in terms of something you give thanks to. It can mean acknowledgements. It can mean a lot of things. So it depends on how it's being used is how the word is going to tell you what the meaning or the proper meaning that's going to be used. So it all depends on the context of how the word is used. That'll tell you what the meaning is. A lot of words in our language do have various meanings, multiple meanings, and so that is quite unique for our language. It is dependent on the context because our language is quite descriptive. And so there is a lot of meaning sometimes for certain words, and depending on how they're used, that meaning may change, or it might be a specific part of that word in terms of the specific meaning that's going to be drawn from it. Okay, so you can now begin to see how words are similar and related in our language. Be aware of roots and endings. Most words have endings that sometimes change and reflect an altered meaning in our language, okay? Depending if they're using a sentence or not. So this section is going to give an introduction to our traditional greetings. The goal is for the learner to master and use these greetings on a daily basis with coworkers, family, and friends, and just about everyone they come into contact with. These are some of the common greetings between people and a basic introduction into the greetings used in the language. All right. So the following words are used for traditional greetings. These are words that will be used for any type of greeting or basic conversation. Okay, so our first one is siguli. It means hello. So siguli, hello. An alternate word for hello is segu. It also means hello. You'll notice that when we talk about the grandparents, greetings, and family members, in a little bit later on, if you're looking in the book, you'll see that there's a section that has family members, and it'll say segu. That can be used in terms of how you are greeting or addressing a family member. I have heard different things depending on the different speakers and their different interpretations of the usage sometimes of siguli and segu. I would say that they're all correct, but I would also say that none of them are incorrect. So just as a learner, I just take things with a grain of salt. And so linguistically, they both mean hello. And so culturally, I have heard different things about the usage of them. Generally, Sagoli is more of a general just term. Segu is a little bit more specific sometimes, depending on how it's being used, and often it's with like formal titles like family members. I have heard some things along the lines of like when you're using Segu with addressing like a female or things like that. Like I said, just take things with a grain of salt. I wouldn't say that none of it's incorrect. And that it's just hello. I mean, really, the word is hello. So it's not anything to stress over. I'll say that. So my whole thing is the whole context of the language and learning and acquiring the language is really what's important. And so I really want you to learn the pronouns, the patterns, and how to conjugate verbs, because that is the central aspect of the pronoun. Sagoli and Segu, the usage of those two words, they essentially just mean hello, and how you use them, just use them as a greeting. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, if you learn things from other people or other speakers about the usage of Sagoli or Segu, that's great. Use it if you would like. If you don't want to, that's fine too. It's your language, and so you can use it however you want. But one thing I always say is don't ever make anyone feel bad or shame anyone for their usage of that. That might be their own unique usage of it. And you will also have your own unique usage of it, whether that's the same or different, and both are okay. Both can coexist as correct ways to do it and use it. Okay, that is how a language lives, is when we continue to evolve and we work on progressing the overall aspects of our language rather than get into the specifics of such things. We just get lost in it, and we are so far beyond past that about arguing about the language. So again, my little TED Talks here within my little video lessons. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because you may or may not have heard that before, and it's all good. It's all okay. It's all appropriate. It's all correct. And I'm just here to teach. Sagoli is hello. Segu is hello as well. It's another word to say hello. Onogiwa. Onogiwa is see you later. It really doesn't mean goodbye. It's kind of used in terms of when you say goodbye, when you're leaving or departing, but it really means like see you later. We don't really have this concept of goodbye in our language, but rather we just say we'll see you again or see you later, and that's used in terms of goodbye. So it's also shortened sometimes as nugitwa or on. Okay, so you may hear different versions of that, and again, those are all correct. Okay, the next one, yawanko, means thank you very much. Go, K-O, on the end of that means something that is like really great or big. Yawanko, the go is like very much, like thank you very much. Okay, go is the emphasis for great or a lot, but you could also say yawa. Yawa just means thanks. It's just a little bit more of a general term. Okay. Skanagoga, it means do you have peace within you, literally. The ga, K caret, makes it a question. So anytime you add ga on something, it makes it a question. We'll talk a little bit more about this later on when we talk about verb conjugations. But just be mindful of it. Skanako is a possible response to that question. So you could say, caret sounds like it means yes. Skanako, yes, I have peace within me. Or you could say gwa ok on. It's the same. Okay. So those are a few possible responses to that question. Skanagoga also has a few different meanings depending on how it's being used. Sometimes we use it here in the nest as like, are you okay? It is kind of like sometimes it's easy to translate, sometimes it's not, because the concepts are different depending on like a cultural perspective. Skana, this word skana in Skanako means peace. It means peace. It kind of also means like wellness, you could loosely say, in an English way, in an English translation, but that doesn't quite do the word justice when you say that in English. But skana, peace, wellness. So sometimes when we use it in the nest or in De Hadiwanakwa here, skana is like, are you okay? Do you have wellness? Like sometimes if a child gets hurt or something, or they fall, and we're like, skanagoga, are you okay? Are you well? And they'll be like, oh, like, or something like that. Or da means no. So you can loosely kind of use it like that. Do you have wellness, or are you okay? Loosely as a translation. But the literal translation is like, do you have peace? Do you have the great peace? Do you have the great peace? And this is just what I've learned. You may have learned other things about this phrase or this word, skana, as well. But I've heard that it kind of is a old term, skana, that peace, and it's related and comes from the Gayand Lasla Goa, the great law of peace. And so before we had all accepted the peace as a confederacy of 6 nations or 5 nations at the time, we were living in a chaotic period of our history, which was like a wartime. And so we didn't carry peace within our hearts, within our minds, within our beings. And so the skana is a concept that came from the Great Law, and we had accepted this peace and this medicine and this love and compassion in our hearts and put down our weapons. And so that skanagoga kind of comes back. It's taken from that time period of our life. So it's pretty old, I guess. You would say it's more of the ancient parts of our language. And so that's gonna go, the great peace is from that. And so like after that wartime or that chaotic time in our history, and we accepted the peace, this was used as a greeting. Do you have the peace within you? Have you accepted the peace within you? Do you have the great peace within you? And people would know that, okay, these people are a part of who we are, and that would continue and be a part of, I guess, the relations. You would know if depending on how someone responded, what their, I guess, if they accepted the peace. And so that would give you that would indicate to you your relations moving forward with them, I guess you could say, and in terms of our confederacy. So yes, after that time, we had 5 nations that were joined together under this great law and under this agreement to peace. And that's what brought us together. And so our relations were this moving forward, and this was a greeting, I guess you could say. So I always find it fascinating, the cultural interpretations of language words, and it's all related. It's all the same, but it's cool, I guess, for me to learn about that. So that's just what I've learned from some people. And so you might have heard other things, but I always think it's cool to just, you take things with a grain of salt from different people, and, you put everything you've learned from many people together, and that helps to form, your personal philosophy or perspective on things. And so, yeah, anyway, so that is the phrase skanagoga. Gonna go. Yes, I have peace within me. Gwa ok on. It's the same. And so I just kind of described that. I'll go over the pronunciation of each of these phrases more shortly, but I just want to give you the context of them first. Okay. Suguri. Let me see. Did I go back? My bad. I did. Okay. So the 2 previous slides, this is the summary of them. Suguli is hello. Remember, Segu is also hello. Onugiwa is see you later. Skanagoga is a question. It's a greeting question. It is, do you have peace within you? A possible response is skanago or gwa ok on. Okay. So let's move on to the greetings for family members. Now, just be mindful, these are not all the family members or names of family members that exist. This is just a real simple introduction and an overview. There are many more. There is many ways to say different ways of these words too, like saying my grandpa, your grandpa, his grandpa, and so on. But right now, I just want you to be familiar with these ones. These are simple and more of an introductory overview of family member terms, and then greetings in combination with some greetings. So Segu Aksut is hello grandma, hello grandmother. Segu Laksut, remember L's, hint, L's reference males. Segu Laksut, Segu Laksota, hello grandpa. Segu Na, Seguna is hello, mom or mother. That's kind of more of a shortened like term of endearment to say for mom or mother. You could also say agnoha. That's another way to say it, but this is kind of like more informal, I guess you could say, when you're talking to your mom. If I was talking about my mom, I would say agnoha, but if I was like talking to my mom, I would say seguna. Also, another little side note, na, that word for mom or mother is also used for auntie. So you could say seguna if you're talking to your auntie. In our cultural perspective or worldview as Oneida people, moms and aunties, they have that same role. And so the word is shared in our language as well. So we know that we value all women, and all women are seen as life givers or mothers. And so seguna is hello mom, but it also can mean hello auntie. And your aunties also serve as that motherly role to you. So you can kind of see the relationship and the connections between how that might be used and why we have one word like na that might mean both of those things. So it's quite interesting. So seguna is hello mom or hello mother. Segulage, the full word is segulage niha. Hello, Dad. Segulage is like the shortened version. The niha is whispered, but it's also like the longer, more formal way of saying it. So segulage, hello, Dad. Hello, Father. It means my dad. Segugiase is my cousin. So segugias is hello, cousin. Segugiada is friend, my friend. Segugiada, hello, friend. The full word, sometimes words change. Sometimes they don't have a whispered ending, and sometimes they change a little bit when they're used in a sentence. So if you were using gedal in a sentence, or if you wanted to say their name after this word, it would be gedalo, gedalo. That's the word you would use. So you could say, Sego gedalo, Mary. So hi, friend Mary, or Mary, my friend, something like that. Like you can put their name after that if you would say it like that. So it's just to give you more context. So gedal is when this is the last word in the statement or sentence, or if it's used by itself. And then gedalo is if it's used in a sentence or something follows it. Okay, so sometimes the words change a little bit. Sometimes they have whispered endings. Sometimes they change. Just be aware of that. Okay, so all of the phrases, I'll say them the full phrase, and then I'll say it with the whispered ending, and I'll just have you repeat it. Segu aksota. Segu aksot means hello, grandma. Segu laksota. Segu laksot, that's hello, grandpa. Segu na, hello, mom. Segu lage niha. Segu lage, that's hello, dad. Segu gyaze, or segu gyas, that's hello, cousin. Segu gyadalo, and then the shortened version or by itself, segu gyada. That's hello, friend. Okay, awesome. So those are our phrases. Segu aksot, segu laksot, segu na, segu lage, segu gyas, and segu gyada. All right, those are our family members, greetings for family members. You'll notice that it says segu. I guess just one like linguistical pattern I've noticed in our language is generally if you're using family members, you're gonna use segu, not segoli. So I think it's a little bit more of a formal way to greet them, and it's using segu. Okay, so again, no, it's not that big of a deal if you said segoli and use instead of segu, but generally that's what I've seen in terms of greeting family members, because that's more of a formal title. I think it might have to do maybe with an aspect of respect as well. So that's just my interpretation of it. Okay, so our next section has to do with counting, and our section is called Dwaset, which means we all count. Okay, so an introduction to numbers in the Oneida language is shown in this section. The first 5 words are commands to count for various people, either me and you, all of us, you two, or you all. Then the numbers start at 1 and go up to 100. Please pay particular attention to the numbers 8 and 9. The ending sounds of these words change depending on the context and if they are said alone or followed by another word or used in a sentence. The recording provided comes from Oscar Archiquette, who was a first language speaker that realized the importance to need and tape such vital information. So if you have used this curriculum in the past and use recordings, audio recordings, he is the speaker on that recording. So in this video, I'm going to do the counting. So obviously it's going to be me, but if you've learned from or had the curriculum book from the language department in the past and they provided you with recordings, that is who is on the recording. That is the speaker. Okay, just FYI. So Dwaset, it means all of us count. A quick intro into commands. Commands utilize 5 sections or 5 areas or parts on our word changes or our meaning chart. Commands typically differ in endings that other verb or word changes, how they usually occur. So they're usually different than the typical endings from other changes or conjugations of the root word in the verb chart or the general standard chart that we use for meanings and pronouns. Okay, so this is just an introduction. You don't need to be a pro at this right now, but I just want to give you some more vocabulary to use for counting. This will make more sense later on when we do verb conjugations, but just FYI for now. So zadahosadat on, zadahosadat is a command. It means you listen. So zadahosadat on. So listen now. You listen up right now. So that is the command. So anyway, let's move on to these commands. So commands, like I said, utilize the 5 areas shown on the meaning chart or our standard pronoun chart here. And because these areas in context, these are things you would say in a command type of way, like you do this, you do that. Okay. For certain words. So commands don't come from other areas of the chart. They only come from these 5 areas because, again, when you're commanding someone to do something, it is only in these contexts generally, okay? Because if you can't command them to do something, if you were talking to them, it would be you all do this, okay? So there's a difference. It's very direct when you talk about commands, and being direct has to include you. So when you're talking about you, it could be me and you. It could be all of us. Let's do this. It could be you. It could be you two, or it could be you all. Okay. So that is where they come from. What are our counting commands? Our counting commands are, I will start with me and you and all of us, and then I'll go you, you two, you all. Okay. So diaset, dwaset, zaset, jaset, and swaset. Okay, just a little context about these commands. Aset is the root. You look at the first letter, it's an A, so that means it's an A stem word. You can also tell by the pronouns. All right, be aware that this word has other changes. You can make many, many more changes on the subjective and the objective side, as well as tense changes. But right now we are strictly just focusing on commands. Okay. Let's see. So like I mentioned, words that have commands, they do make 15 other changes in this chart, specifically for the subjective, but they will make objective word changes, and they will also have other tense changes. So just be aware. So this little bear, he's saying natigandu. It means, what does it mean? What does it mean for diaset? So take a guess before I show you the meanings. Think about what these words might mean. So I said aset is the root. Aset means to count. To count. Okay, so who is counting? What are we talking about? Let's talk about the meanings. So diaset means me and you count. Dwaset means all of us count. Let's count. Zaset means you count. Jaset means you two count. And swaset means all of you count. Okay, so like I mentioned, be aware that there is other changes that occur where these X's are, but they do not count. They are not part of commands though. Okay, so commands or specifically this, when you make changes for these other ones where the X's are, the changes are similar and they're a little different because they include an ending. For commands, they don't include an ending. Generally, it's the last consonant of the root. So that is, what does that really mean? You don't have to worry about that right now, but that's what it is. So generally, commands do not have endings. Or if they do, they take the ending of the past, future, should, could, or would tenses. Okay, so that will be covered in a later video about verb conjugations, but right now just know that commands always occur in these 5 areas of the meaning chart or the standard pronoun chart that we have. So me and you, all of us, you two, and you all. Okay, so we had talked about zaset, jaset, swaset, diaset, and dwaset, and those were our commands. So swahalega, are you all ready? Let's talk about our counting. So I'm going to go through these. I'm going to go through like 1 through 30 a little bit more slowly, and then I'll just do the rest of them because it's all based on a pattern. So uska is 1. You'll see the number. That's what the meaning is. Dagan is 2. Dagan is the word by itself. If it's used in a sentence or something follows the word dagan, you will use dagni. Okay, it's a little bit of a word change. Same word. Sometimes the words just change depending on the context, if it's in a sentence or not. Okay, so dagan by itself, dagni if it's used in a sentence or something follows the word. Asa, that has a whispered ending. As by itself, asa, if it's used in a sentence or something follows it. Gaye is 4. Whisk is 5. Yayak is 6. Jadak is 7. Dagel is 8. Daglu, you will use the word daglu, though. It will change. Dagel will change to daglu if it's used in a sentence or something follows the word. There is a difference. This is more particular information about the details of our language and how the language functions. Okay, so generally, if you see words that have an EHL ending, by itself, that is how the word occurs. If it's used in a sentence or something follows that word, it will change. The EHL will change generally to an LU or sometimes an LA, depending on the word. But for the number 8, it's daglu. Okay, so just FYI, when you're counting by itself, you will say dagel, but if you're saying something that has to do with 8 or maybe the word 18, you're going to use daglu. So notice the small changes of our language. That builds proficiency and your knowledge about the language. So dagel, 8, but daglu if it's used in a sentence. Wadel, same thing, same pattern. Wadel is 9, but it's wadlu if it's used in a sentence or something follows the word. Oye, the full word is oye li, which is 10. Okay, but oye when it's used by itself, when you're just counting, it's oye. Uska yawal. This yawal word is like our teen. It's our teen number. Okay, so uska yawal is 11. Dagni yawal is 12. This, can you see the pattern? Asa yawal, as is 3. Yawal is like that teen or 10 frame. Sometimes they say it. Asa yawal is 13. Gaye yawal 14. Whisk yawal 15. Yayak yawal is 16. Jadak yawal is 17. Daglu yawal. Okay, so daglu because something is following the word now, so it's going to be daglu. Wadlu yawal is 19, and then 20 is dewas. Okay, so I just want to I'm going to go through 30, and then I'm going to back up and start right from 1, and I just want you to do the pronunciation for all of them. Okay. I'll just do my lecture and then I'll start from the beginning and go through all of them. Okay, so dewas is 20. When you get to 20, notice the patterns here. I want you to see them. I want you to hear them. Dewas is 20. When you get to 21, you just use dewas and whatever your number is. Dewasa uska, 22. Dewasa dagan, because dagan is 2. That's 22. Dewasa as, 23. Dewasa gaye, 24. Dewasa Wis, 25. Dewasa Yayak, 26. Dewasa Jadak, 27. Dewasa Dagel, 28. Dewasa Wadel, 29. Asa Niwas. Remember, Asa is 3, right? Niwas is like these 3 10s, which is 30, okay? It is our word to represent these higher numbers or these higher groups of numbers when we're talking about like 30, 40. So every single number from 30 to 99 is going to have that niwas, okay? So pay attention to the pattern. Really, when you count like 1 through 100 or 1 to any number in our language, it's really 1 through 9. So know those numbers 1 through 9 really, really well because everything is just a pattern here, okay? So asa niwas is 30. You are just going to reuse asa niwas in every single number for 30 to 39, okay? basically you're just going to use asaniwas plus your number. Okay, so we're saying 31. We're going to say asaniwasa uska, asaniwasa dagan. That's 32. Asaniwasa as, if we're saying that as, it's 33. Asaniwasa, remember that's 30, and gaye, so asaniwasa gaye is 34. Asaniwasa whisk, 35. Asaniwasa yayak, 36. Asaniwasa jadak. So asaniwasa is 30, jadak is 7, 37. Asaniwasa dagal, 38. Asaniwasa wadal, 39. Okay, so this is why 1 through 9 is incredibly important. Gaye niwas, gaye is 4. The niwas has to do with, our higher number here in terms of like the groups of tens that we're talking about. So it's 40. Gaye niwas is 40. So again, same pattern. You're just going to use gaye niwas plus whatever number you're talking about, 40 through 49. So gaye niwasa uska is 41. Gaye niwasa dagan is 42. Gaye niwasa as is 43. Gaye niwasa gaye is 44. Gaye niwasa whisk is 45. Gaye niwasa yayak, 46. Gaye niwasa jadak, 47. Gaye niwasa dagal, 48. Gaye niwasa wada, 49. And then we get to whisk niwas. So you should know the pattern by now. I'm just going to go through the rest of these, and then I'm going to start 1 through 100, and I want you to practice the pronunciation with me. Okay, so whisk niwas is 50, whisk niwasa uska, 51, whisk niwasa dagan, 52, whisk niwasa as, 53, whisk niwasa gaye, 54, whisk niwasa whisk, 55, whisk niwasa yayak, 56, whisk niwasa jadak, 57, whisk niwasa dagal, 58, whisk niwasa wadal, 59, Yayak niwas. Yayak niwas is 6. Yayak niwas 60. Okay. Pattern. Hopefully you're picking up the pattern. Yayak niwasa uska 61. Yayak niwasa dagan 62. Yayak niwasa as 63. Yayak niwasa gaye 64. Yayak niwasa wis 65. Yayak niwasa yayak 66. Yayak niwasa jadak 67. Yayak niwasa dagal is 68. Yayak niwasa wada 69. Jadak is 7. Jadak niwas is 70. So all you do is just reuse the jadak niwas and everything. Jadak niwasa uska 71. Jadak niwasa dagan 72. Jadak niwasa as 73. Jadak niwasa gaye 74. Jadak niwasa wis 75. Jadak niwasa yayak 76. Jadak niwasa jadak is 77. Jadak niwasa dagal, because dagal is the last part of that sentence or statement, so it's dagal. That's 78. Jadak niwasa wadal, 79. Okay, it's wadal because that's the last word in that sentence or statement. But now, but now when we get to 80 and 90, remember 8 is dagal, but it changes to deglu if something is following the word. So that is what we're using here for 80, because it's followed 80 or 8 is followed by a word niwas. So it's going to be deglu niwas 80. And you just reuse deglu niwas and everything. So deglu niwas uska is 81. Deglu niwas dagan 82. Deglu niwas as is 83. Deglu niwasa gaye 84, Deglu niwasa whisk 85, Deglu niwasa yayak 86, Deglu niwasa jadak is 87, Deglu niwasa dagal is 88, Deglu niwasa wadal is 89, Wadlu niwasa is 90. Wadlu niwasa uska 91, Wadlu niwasa dagan is 92, Wadlu niwasa as is 93, Wadlu niwasa gaye is 94, Wadlu niwasa whisk is 95, Wadlu niwasa yayak is 96, Wadlu niwasa jadak is 97, Wadlu niwasa dagal is 98, Wadlu niwasa wadal is 99. So like I mentioned, when we talk about 90, 9 is wadal, but when wadal is used in a sentence or something follows the word wadal, it's wadlu. It changes to wadlu. So now it's wadlu niwas. Okay. So I said 99 was wadlu niwasa wadal, and our number 100, it uses the word one. One, it literally means 100. So uska dewa niawel. Uska dewa niawel. The full word, because there's a little whispered ending here. Uska dewa niawelu. Okay. So that was 1 through 100 and the little spiel, my little lecture with that. So I'm going to start at 1 and I'm going to go to 100 and I'm just going to say them in Oneida. I would like you to follow along. and or practice the pronunciation. Okay, so you can repeat them after me. You can pause this as well, or you can just listen to it. Sometimes it's helpful to just listen to it over and over and then practice your own pronunciation. I would, if you have your book, I would read them and do your own pronunciation after you listen to this video or the audios, and just go through them, uska, dig, and as, and so on. Okay, that will help you as well. Practice them when you have time. Okay, so I'm just going to go 1 through 100. You can say them and repeat them after me. I'm simply just going to go through the Oneida 1 all the way to 100. Okay, so I'm going to start. Uska, degen, as, gaye, whisk, yayak, jadak, degel, wada, oye, uska yawa, degni yawa, asa yawa, gaye yawa, whisk yawa, yayak yawa, jadak yawa, deglu yawa, wadlu yawa, dewas, dewasa uska, dewasa degen, dewasa as, dewasa gaye, dewasa whisk, dewasa yayak, dewasa jadak, dewasa degel, dewasa wada, asaniwas, asaniwasa uska, asaniwasa degen, asaniwasa as, asaniwasa gaye, asaniwasa whisk, asaniwasa yayak, asaniwasa jadak, asaniwasa dega, asaniwasa wada, gaye niwas, gaye niwasa uska, gaye niwasa degen, gaye niwasa as, gaye niwasa gaye, gaye niwasa whisk, gaye niwasa yayak, gaye niwasa jadak, gaye niwasa dega, gaye niwasa wada, whisk niwas, whisk niwasa uska, whisk niwasa degen, whisk niwasa as, whisk niwasa gaye, whisk niwasa whisk, whisk niwasa yayak, whisk niwasa jadak, whisk niwasa dega, whisk niwasa wada, yayak niwas, yayak niwasa uska, yayak niwasa degen, yayak niwasa as, yayak niwasa gaye, yayak niwasa whisk, yayak niwasa yayak, yayak niwasa jadak, yayak niwasa dega, yayak niwasa wada, jadak niwas, jadak niwasa uska, jadak niwasa degen, jadak niwasa as, jadak niwasa gaye, jadak niwasa whisk, jadak niwasa yayak, jadak niwasa jadak, jadak niwasa dega, jadak niwasa wada, deglu niwas, deglu niwasa uska, deglu niwasa degen, deglu niwasa as, deglu niwasa gaye, deglu niwasa whisk, deglu niwasa yayak, deglu niwasa jadak, deglu niwasa dega, deglu niwasa wada, wadlu niwas, wadlu niwasa uska, Wadluni was sa dagan. Wadluni was sa as. Wadluni was sa gaye. Wadluni was sa whisk. Wadluni was sa yayak. Wadluni was sa jadak. Wadluni was sa daga. Wadluni was sa wada. Uska dewa nyawa. All right, so that was 1 through 100. There was one little note I wanted to mention too. So when you look at dewas, 20, there's a whispered ending. So by itself, it's just dewas. But when you start using it, 21 to 29, there's something after dewas, right? So we got to say the whispered ending, which is dewasa, dewasa, okay? Same thing with 30 and everything 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. There's going to have this niwas, okay? So it's just asaniwas by itself, but when you start using it in 31 to 39 and so on in the same pattern for every set, 40s, 50s, 60s, so on, you're going to say that niwasa, that whispered ending. So same thing, that carrot is whispered when it's by itself in niwas, but when you say it in a sentence or a statement, if something follows the niwas, it's going to be spoken. So asa niwasa uska. Okay, so just pointing that out, it's just to help for pronunciation. Okay, so swatnigulan down ga chinatiwaki. So do you all understand what I said? Okay, so that was 1 through 100. Practice that. It's going to be very helpful. These are our greetings here. Remember, hello, sagoli. So this is just translation practice here. See you later. Onogiwa. Do you have peace within you? The phrase is skanagoga. Yes, and you could also say this as a response. Yes, I have peace within me, which is it's gonna go. Or you could also say, it's okay, it's the same. The phrase is gwa ok on. What about hello, grandma? Segu aksat. Yes. Hello, grandpa is segu laksat. Yes. What about hello, mom? Segu na. What about hello, dad? Phrase is segu lage. Yes. Hello, cousin? Segu gias. What about hello, friend? Segu giada. Yes. Okay, what about our counting commands? You count, zaset. You two count, jaset. You all count, swaset. What about me and you count? That's diaset. And all of us count, dwaset. Remember, you can see the pronouns in there too, za, ja, swa, dia, and dwa. Okay, so those pronouns, they come in handy because they are like the center of our language. Okay, that I'm not going to do, but just be mindful. These are really important when you're talking about 1 through 100. So know 1 through 10 and know the tens. Okay, so we have uska, dagan, as, gaye, whisk, yayak, jarak, dagal, wadal, oye. And then remember our tens. This is going to help you learn 1 through 100. Oye, dewas. Asa niwas is 30. Gaye niwas is 40. Whisk niwas is 50. Yayak niwas is 60. Jadak niwas is 70. Deglu niwas is 80. Wadlu niwas is 90. And uska dewat nyawal is 100. Okay. So focus on 1 through 10, learning 1 through 10. You can practice this, pause this right now. And I would also do the same for the tens and practice 1 through 50. You can pause this right now if you need to, and you can practice pronouncing 1 through 50, and then you can practice and pause this and practice 51 through 100. So I just have the table up here. It kind of helps you to follow along. You can point to them or just use it as needed in whatever way you need to review. Let's see, this I'm not going to do, but sometimes I do a little bit of an activity to help with translations. Sorry, I have some emails coming in. But sometimes what I used to do when I taught high school is I would do this as a review activity. And so natigandu means what does it mean? And I would give the number and I would have them write the number or the translation on a whiteboard. So yayak, what is yayak? It's 6. All right. So this is going to help you to think outside of just counting in order 1 through 100. So when you're first learning, definitely focus on the numbers in order, counting 1 through 100 and the pattern. But eventually, because we all know English very well, we should be able to say like there are 6 pens or something like that. But you need to know 6 right away. You don't have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You already know what it is. Okay, so that's the same thing. I want you to know that in Oneida, that word is yayak. Okay, what about jadak yawal? Jadak yawal. What is that number? 17. Yes, 17. Jadak is 7. Yawal is that teen. It's 17. That might give you a hint. What about dewasa wadal? Dewasa wadal. What is that number? Dewasa and wada. 29. 29. What about asaniwasa dagan? What is that number? Asaniwas. What is that number? And what is dagan? It's going to help you to know the translation. 32. 32. What about gayeniwas? That's 40. Pause this if you need more time. Wisniwasa gaye is 54. What about yayak niwasa jadak? Yayak niwasa jadak. Pause this if you need more time. Yayak niwasa is 60. Yayak niwasa jadak is 67. Okay. What about jadak niwasa wadal? Jadak niwasa is 70. Jadak niwasa wadal is 79. Deglu niwasa as. Deglu niwasa as. Pause it if you need more time. Deglu niwasa as is 83. Wadlu niwasa uska. Wadlu niwasa uska is 91. And uska de yellow 100. Okay, so let's do, these are just some more examples. You can pause this if you want to do them and say them. But I am going to continue. There was one thing I thought I wanted to do at the end here. I guess not. Okay, these I'm not going to go through, but I think that's it. Okay, so we learned greetings and counting in this video today. Another great activity you could do if you wanted to just help you study is write all the numbers out on a sheet of paper, fold them up, put them in a hat, and just draw them out. Like say you had all your numbers written on a sheet and you folded them all up, put them in a hat, and picked them out, because I want you to know the numbers individually too. Pull them out. Say I drew this one and it says 72. What is that? What is that in Oneida? Jadak niwasa dagan. So you could do the translation right using that activity. So another idea for studying. Okay, so be creative. Think of ways that can help you self-study outside of the ordinary ones. And so today's video covered greetings and counting. So hopefully this was very helpful in terms of learning a little bit more about some foundational aspects of our language. So that is it for this video. Toginik o nagiwa.